I went to my parents' house for the Chinese New Year and bought New Year's goods. My husband Benjamin was a bit unhappy. He said, "You go to your parents' house every month and buy things. That's too much of an expense. I earn more than you. You earn less but spend more. That's not fair. From now on, let's go halves." I agreed immediately, and we agreed on 3 rules. From now on, we sleep in separate rooms. We each take care of our own parents. I charge for doing the housework and cooking. 1 year later, my husband Benjamin became a Moonlight Clan. He knelt down and apologized to me, asking to cancel the previous agreement. I smiled and handed him the divorce agreement. "It's better for us to completely separate." Benjamin stared at the New Year goods stacked against the wall. Frowning, he said, "You're going back to your parents' house. Do you need to buy so much stuff?" Her questioning tone made me feel a little uncomfortable, but I still patiently explained. "I've prepared 2 sets of New Year's goods. One for my family, and one for your family. Both sets are identical. We've been married for 3 years. I've never favored anyone, even if I'm so fair." Benjamin was still not satisfied. He gave me a contemptuous look. "My monthly salary is over 10,000 yuan. You only get 7,000. Why should your family have the same things as mine? The extra money I earn, why should I share equally with you? You don't earn much, but you spend a lot. Is that reasonable?" Faced with this question, I was at a loss for words. My heart felt heavy. It's just buying some New Year's goods. Is it necessary to be so serious about it? At home, we have to be divided into classes according to income. Seeing that I didn't say anything, Benjamin took the initiative to speak up instead. He said, "My mother has mentioned this several times. I didn't take it seriously. Now it seems you really are immature in this regard. Tell you what, to be fair, from now on we'll split the bills. You can spend your money however you like. I won't say a word." I looked at Benjamin in surprise. Did these words really come from the person I'd lived with for 3 years? It seems that he had been resentful about the family's spending for a long time. My mother-in-law Emily must have gossiped behind his back a lot. I immediately agreed, without any hesitation. "Okay, if we're going to be paying separately, then let's do it. But we need to agree on 3 things first. Let's set the rules straight." Benjamin didn't expect me to agree so quickly. His face immediately lit up with joy. He nodded repeatedly and said, "Yes, yes, yes. It's best to be clear, otherwise we'll never feel at ease." Haha, this little bit of daily expenditure makes you uncomfortable. I listed each item. I made it very clear. From today on, we sleep separately. We each pay half of the utility and property management fees. We each take care of our own parents. You wash your own underwear and socks. I won't do it for you anymore. If I'm responsible for doing the laundry and cooking, you have to pay extra. According to my habits, each meal costs at least 50 yuan per person. If I'm responsible for all the housework in the family, you have to give me 3,000 yuan per month. I casually named a few prices. Benjamin immediately became agitated and could not sit still. He stood up abruptly. 3,000. That's what you want to pay for doing the housework? I leaned back on the sofa. I gave him a cold stare. Hiring an au pair to help with the housework will cost at least 5,000 yuan a month. You can decide whether to hire one or not. I can clean my own room. I don't care about the outside area. You can save money if you want. Then you can do the dishes, sweep the floor and mop the floor every day. And every week you have to clean the furniture and decorations in the whole house. I haven't finished talking yet. Benjamin interrupted me anxiously. "I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you right now. Okay?" I smiled slightly. I secretly gloated in my heart. If I don't make you pay a price, you really think I'm just someone to be ordered around. I pointed at the wall. "I used my salary to buy all these goods over the years. You buy your own from your side of the family." On New Year's Eve, we went to my in-laws empty-handed for New Year's Eve dinner. As soon as Benjamin entered the door, he sat on the sofa and started playing with his phone. I followed suit and sat down to play with my phone as well. Emily, my mother-in-law, immediately looked furious. She said, "These days, people really don't know any more about rules. It's New Year's Eve. You go to your in-laws empty-handed. Do you think you're some kind of princess? In the past, whenever I came back, I volunteered to do the housework. They bought the ingredients for the New Year's Eve dinner early in the morning. They cooked it themselves. The three of them just sat there waiting to eat. Now the pot in the kitchen is cold. The stove is cold. Do they still expect me to cook? George, her father-in-law, is a hot-tempered man. He immediately flew into a rage. Evelyn, look at how few daughters-in-law are like you. It's New Year's Eve and you don't even know the basic etiquette. Before, I thought you did a pretty good job in this area. It turns out you were just putting on an act. Now you don't even bother to put on an act. I watched my in-laws stamping their feet in anger. I felt inexplicably happy. In the past, I was sincere with them, but I never got a kind word in return. Every time I bought something back, my mother-in-law Emily would always pick on it. These things are not practical at all. You really don't know how to save money. Benjamin doesn't earn an easy living. I see you spend money without restraint. I really feel for him. You don't even clean properly. You're not even as good as a maid. I really don't know what Benjamin sees in you. You get picked on even when you do a good job. I might as well just give up. After my in-laws had finished, I calmly spoke up. Dad, Mom, this is not my fault. Benjamin and I agreed to live together as equals. We agreed that each of our parents would take care of us. We would also prepare our own New Year's Eve dinner. We agreed on this before. I want to be paid for doing the housework. Today is New Year's Eve dinner. How much are you going to pay for it? Last year, in order to be able to spend New Year's Eve with my parents, I specially booked a table at a 5-star hotel. Originally, the two families got together. It should have been a happy occasion, but it was ruined by my in-laws. They kept praising their son for being so capable. Between the lines, they were saying that I was just taking advantage of Benjamin. They also said that I don't know how to live. The New Year's Eve dinner was booked at a very high price. In fact, my mother had already volunteered to pay for the meal. There was no need for them to make a big deal out of it. What annoyed me most was that during the New Year's Eve dinner, everyone kept urging me to have children. Evelyn, with your salary and all the overtime you do, is it worth it? This family still has to be supported by Benjamin. You don't earn much either. Why don't you focus on taking care of your health? Have a child and stay at home full-time to take care of them. They were belittling me in every sentence. Just because I don't earn as much as Benjamin, I am capable, and I love my job. Why should I make such sacrifices? What made me even more angry was Benjamin's attitude. He even agreed with his parents' views. That's right. I'm the one who pays for the food, clothes, and all the expenses in the family. I'm the one who pays the mortgage. It doesn't matter if you work or not. You think you're so great with that measly salary. Do you really think you can spend as much as you like? My in-laws heard that I wanted to charge for the New Year's Eve meal. They immediately flew into a rage, especially my mother-in-law Emily. She said a lot of nasty things angrily. Her saliva even splashed on my face. Benjamin looked unhappy. He whispered to me, "You go ahead. I'll pay you later." Why does everyone have to be unhappy today? I sat on the sofa, motionless. We had an agreement. Pay first. Do the work later. Never owe money. Emily, my mother-in-law, was about to lose her temper, but when she saw my cold stare, she was too scared to say a word. You always complain that I spend money recklessly. Why don't you go to the market and see for yourselves how much food costs on New Year's Eve? Since we're splitting the bill, you should pay for the groceries. Do you really care about saving face? I'm not sure how long you can keep up the pretense. As usual, Benjamin's grandparents and his uncle's family will be joining us for New Year's Eve dinner. I deliberately didn't mention the shopping earlier today. Emily, his mother-in-law, said loudly, "We've been waiting for this kind of chaos. Otherwise, the whole family would just sit back and enjoy themselves. There are so many people eating. How much will it cost to buy groceries? It's already afternoon. The market stalls are almost all gone. Where are we going to buy groceries? You're getting anxious." I shrugged. I thought Benjamin had already told you. Since it's all going to be paid for, I'm not responsible for the family here. I've never seen parents like this. They always take it for granted that their children will take care of them. Every time we go home, my in-laws don't prepare anything. I didn't expect to have a hot meal waiting for me when I get home, but they didn't prepare anything. And when I go back to my parents' house, my parents always prepare a big table of my favorite dishes. Before leaving, they let me take a lot of things with me. When I compare the two, it really makes me feel uncomfortable. Mother-in-law Emily is spinning in circles with worry. I'm leisurely playing games on the side. If I hadn't seen Benjamin's chat history with mother-in-law Emily the other day, I wouldn't have upset them during the Chinese New Year. Benjamin said, "Mom, the matter is settled. Starting today, Evelyn and I will be completely AA from now on. You don't have to worry about her spending my money anymore." Emily said, "Oh dear, my son, you've finally made up your mind. I told you this woman is only after your money. She might even be secretly buying her family things behind your back." Benjamin said, "Yes, thanks to Mom for reminding me. Otherwise I wouldn't have noticed how much she's taken advantage of us over the years. Emily, with her meager salary, why should she buy the same things for her family? They deserve it." Seeing all this, I felt my chest tighten with anger. I tried to hold back my anger, put Benjamin's phone back where it was, and didn't argue with him. We planned to wait until New Year's Eve to spring a surprise on them. It was time to prepare the New Year's Eve meal, but there wasn't even a vegetable in the house. Benjamin couldn't wait, and drags me out of the house. There are not many vendors left in the market. We have to go to the supermarket. Except for the imported fresh food supermarket, all the other stores are closed. They closed early. I don't really want to buy anything in particular, so I just pick some things I like and put them in the shopping cart. Every time I take an item, Benjamin's face gets uglier. He frowns and says, "Do we really need to buy so much? These things are so expensive. Can we change the dishes?" Haha. Spending your own money. You start to feel reluctant. A few years ago during the new year, I spent thousands of dollars just on groceries, not to mention all those imported fruits. But who cares about that? I stopped the shopping cart and casually retorted, "For a New Year's Eve dinner for 10 people, I'm only preparing 3 dishes and 1 soup. I don't care. It's not like I'm the one who'll lose face. Nothing in this imported supermarket is cheap. Even 2 cucumbers cost a few tens of dollars. Because they're imported and organic, that's why they're more expensive." When I was preparing the New Year's Eve dinner, I bought big prawns, crabs, and grouper. None of them said it was expensive. My father-in-law George even complained that I didn't buy enough. He said I was stingy. But they don't think about it. This big family eats like they've been hungry for days. They buried their heads and ate like crazy. It was as if they had never seen meat before. "No matter how much food I buy, it's never enough for you all." Benjamin sighed helplessly. I could only let me pick the food at random. When paying the bill, I took a pack of red envelopes next to the cashier. Remember to give your parents and grandparents red envelopes. In the past, I gave each of them 2,000. Also, your cousin's child, I gave 500 before. You decide. Benjamin's face immediately turned pale when he heard this. On the way home, I suggested charging 500 yuan for the New Year's Eve dinner. Benjamin's hand trembled. The car drove in an S shape. I said calmly, "Normally, when you hire someone to cook a meal, the fee is at least 300 yuan. Today is a holiday, so my price increase is reasonable." At this time, Benjamin was in a dilemma. His mother's cooking was well known to the whole family. Besides, the New Year's Eve dinner has to look presentable. My mother-in-law Emily's cooking is really hard to stomach. Just looking at it makes you lose your appetite. Benjamin was so angry that he gave me 500 yuan directly. After I accepted it, I went to prepare the New Year's Eve dinner. After dinner, the whole family went to the living room to wait for the Spring Festival gala together. I was about to follow. Benjamin suddenly stopped me. "It's 15 yuan to wash the dishes. I'll transfer it to you now." I grabbed his hand, which was about to enter the numbers, and smiled. "Usually it's only 15 yuan for the 2 of us to eat. Look at all the pots and pans today. The workload has increased several times. 100 yuan. Otherwise you do it yourself." Benjamin's face was gloomy. He whispered to me in the corner, "Evelyn, Are you only concerned about money? Why can't you stop talking about money when you talk to me now? You are, after all, the daughter-in-law of our Johnson family. You should do the housework. Usually when doing housework, you treat me as a family member. Why are you so clear-cut when it comes to spending money? I gave Benjamin a cold look. Didn't you take the initiative to mention the idea of splitting the bills? You also agreed to do the calculations. Are you backing out now? Benjamin was so angry that his face turned red. Do you need to be so calculating? Washing a few dishes in your own home. Why do you have to count the money? What's the harm in doing the dishes? I snapped back. This is your house. Then why don't you do it yourself? You're always telling me what to do. What do I owe you? I won't be stupid like I used to be. Benjamin's salary was only 12,000 yuan. The mortgage was 4,000 yuan. He bought the house before they got married, so he paid it himself. He only gave me 2,000 yuan a month for living expenses. He spent the remaining 6,000 yuan on himself. I'm responsible for the household's utilities and property management fees. I also have to buy groceries, cook, and do the housework. In addition, I have to give each of my parents 1,000 yuan a month as living expenses. I go back to visit my parents every half month. Each time I go shopping, I spend at least 300 yuan. These are all fixed expenses, not to mention the cost of gifts during the Chinese New Year and other holidays. The tens of thousands of yuan in red envelopes during the Chinese New Year are also all paid by me. I'm in charge of the clothes, shoes, and daily necessities for the both of us. When I go back to my in-laws' house, the whole family boss me around. It's like they're treating me like a nanny. Even so, the Johnsons still think I'm getting a great deal. Why should I have to pay and work hard and be looked down on? Benjamin doesn't want to lose face in front of his relatives. So reluctantly, he gives me 100 yuan. The Spring Festival Gala show isn't over yet. Grandpa and Grandma are ready to go home. They're used to going to bed early. At this moment, Emily, my mother-in-law, gives me a wink. Evelyn. Everyone is getting ready to go. Hurry up and give out the gift. Benjamin's cousin's child also ran over. Smiling, he held out his hands. Little auntie, where's my New Year's money this year? Looking at the expectant eyes of the whole family, I realized how confused I had been in the past. Every year, I carefully selected gifts for everyone. I thought about it very thoroughly. The Johnson family has a lot of relatives. The expenses are high. I never cared about how much money I spent. After doing all this, instead, I was accused of not being able to manage a household economically. Then let them spend their own money. Manage the household themselves. I patted my child's head and said with a smile, from now on, your little uncle will prepare your New Year's money and gift. You can ask him directly. I'll see about that. You three have prepared nothing. How will it end? Everyone was staring at Benjamin. I waited nearby, watching the fun. Benjamin was a little embarrassed and rubbed his hands together. He whispered sweetly to me, my dear, you've always been the most considerate. You must have prepared the red envelopes and gifts long ago. Just take them out. George, my father-in-law, looked at me sternly. His tone was full of pressure. Evelyn, even if you want to make trouble, you have to do it in the right place. Your grandparents are still alive. It's not right for you to throw a tantrum like this. I blinked. I put on an innocent look. Didn't we agree to split the bill? Each responsible for their own part? Why is it now my business? Benjamin's Aunt Lily seemed to sense something unusual. She gave a cold smile. Her tone was full of disdain. So, you have to be careful when choosing a partner. It's only been a few years since she married into the family. Her true nature has already revealed itself. She's quietly added a big fat boy to our family. You're not as pleased as she is. You're infertile, but you're giving our whole family the cold shoulder. I'm really angry at those rude words. Who are you talking about? Are you all that great? You don't behave well. You have to compete to do that kind of thing. Which year hasn't your family come to eat and drink for free? The family only brought a carton of milk. They didn't bring anything else. And they dare to order food. They want expensive things like sea cucumbers, abalones, and fish maw. In the past, I didn't say anything, but now I don't want to give them face anymore. Every New Year's Eve, your family eats and drinks to their heart's content. Then they take their red envelopes and gifts and leave. I'm left alone to clean up the mess. You always take advantage. And you have the nerve to blame me. How shameless. In the past, I paid for the red envelopes and gifts myself. This year, I don't want to give them. To be honest, I've put up with Uncle's family for a long time. They've gone too far, and they have no sense of shame. In fact, my mother-in-law Emily is also a bit unhappy with her younger brother, but she just grumbles behind his back. On the surface, she still maintains a friendly relationship with him. After all, I pay for their living expenses and help them save face. Today, I got my revenge. I feel much better. My mother-in-law Emily is not happy. She glares at me angrily. Her finger is almost about to poke my nose. Evelyn, how can you speak to your elders like that? Even if you have a conflict with Benjamin, you can't just lose your temper with other people. Anne, everything you use, wear and eat, isn't it all Benjamin's hard-earned money? What are you so pleased about? I think you're addicted to taking advantage of people. Benjamin said he wanted to go halves with you, and you weren't happy about it, and you deliberately made the whole family have a bad New Year's Eve, right? That's not wrong, but they don't know. Going halves was just the beginning. In recent years, I feel like I've been good enough to the Johnsons, but because my salary is not as high as Benjamin's, they started to target me. Even though I take care of everyone in the family, they will still say, it's not like you're using Benjamin's money. You're a waste of money to marry. It's true that my salary is not high, but I know how to manage money. I also invested with my best friend and opened a nail and beauty salon. If I only lived on my salary, where would I have gotten so much money to subsidize their family in recent years? In the past, I always considered Benjamin's feelings. I never mentioned any of this. I thought that living together wasn't something that needed to be taken too seriously. I never expected Benjamin to be the one to take it seriously. In the end, the whole family blamed me for taking advantage of them. I laughed coldly. I said, Benjamin only gives 2,000 yuan a month for the family. We're already overspending on groceries and daily necessities. Do you have any idea how much money I give you each month? Don't you notice how much I bring home every time I go shopping? I am Benjamin's legal wife. It is my duty to take care of you. But let me make it clear. I have spent all this money with my own hard-earned money. Think about it. Who is taking advantage of whom? No one said a word. Emily, the mother-in-law, was still full of rage. She put her arms akimbo and yelled, Benjamin has been paying the mortgage all along. You moved in without paying a single penny. It is only fair that you spend some money on our family now. Hearing this, it sounds like I have no place to live. It's all thanks to her son for kindly taking me in. The same words. Emily has said them many times on different occasions. Before, I considered the Johnson family's face. We just laughed and didn't say anything. Maybe I'm too tolerant. It makes her feel more and more important. Today I have to make her behave. Benjamin bought this 2-bedroom apartment before he got married. You're worried that I'll get the house if we divorce in the future. That's why you insisted that Benjamin pay the mortgage alone, right? Emily's eyes flickered a little, but she insisted. The house was originally paid for by our family. Why should you get it? Is that why you're deliberately picking fights with Benjamin? He's willing to marry you, give you a stable home. You don't have to rent somewhere else. What more do you want? The more she said, the more outrageous it became. If she went on, I'll be made out to be a helpless waif. My mother-in-law Emily is always concerned about her reputation. She likes to brag. She's afraid of being looked down on. I have to expose her true colors, make her look bad. My parents bought me 2 apartments before I got married, with the full price. Either one is bigger than the one I'm living in now. You don't need to talk to me in that condescending tone. I did suggest living in my house at first. You were the ones who were too concerned about face. You refused because you were worried that Benjamin would be seen as a stepson. I was the one who gave in too easily. That's why you've become more and more smug. It's as if I'm desperate to marry into your family. I've put together a table of the expenses I've had in the years since marrying Benjamin. I'm sending it to the group now. Let everyone judge for themselves. The night Benjamin proposed that we go halves, he immediately made the table. In fact, all along. It's obvious that I'm the one who's contributed more, but now I'm being guarded against like a thief. I really can't accept this situation. The spreadsheet was made just in case. But at that moment, I had completely lost confidence in Benjamin. My father-in-law George scolded me with a stern face. Is it really necessary to post such a trivial matter to the family group? How embarrassing. Not only are there people present in the group, Benjamin also has an uncle who lives far away, and 2 aunts. Each of them has sons and daughters, daughters-in-law and sons-in-law. There are probably 20 to 30 people in this group. I just want more people to know about this. I don't care if their family feels embarrassed. As soon as George, my father-in-law, finished talking, I sent the table out. Everyone took out their phones. They looked at it carefully. I took the opportunity. I quickly typed 2 lines. Dear elders and siblings, Benjamin thinks I spend too much money. He has suffered in recent years. So from today on we'll each contribute to the household expenses. Here are our expenses over the past 3 years of marriage. Please take a look. Just look at the table. Anyone can see who has contributed more. I don't expect absolute fairness, but they always say I'm the one who benefits. That makes me very unhappy. In the face of the facts, I thought everyone would speak up for me. But no, the whole family is surprisingly united, standing on the same side. Uncle Tom said, it's a matter between husband and wife. They should sort it out themselves behind closed doors. Aunt Lily said, a woman should be gentle and virtuous. Don't be unreasonable. That'll just make people hate you. Aunt Mary said, since they're married, they're family. Even if their fingers are different lengths, why bother? Aren't you tired? Aunt Linda continued, you should marry a virtuous daughter-in-law. A little thing like this can cause a huge fuss. There's no peace in the house. It's really annoying during the Chinese New Year. My cousin Kathy said, hey, didn't you insist on marrying Benjamin yourself? What? After 3 years. Now you don't want to anymore. I really can't decide whether to laugh or cry. Benjamin spent a lot of money, and they say I got the better deal. Now that I'm spending more money, and said that I'm a miser and I'm paying for it. Their family really plays the double standard clearly. They are on the opposite side of me. Then I don't need to be polite. I named a few people in the group. Aunt Linda, I paid for my uncle's hospital bill last time. It's time to pay me back. Cousin Kathy, you borrowed 20,000 yuan last year. You said you wanted to enroll your child in an interest class. Isn't it time to pay me back? Cousin David, you borrowed 100,000 yuan to buy a car. You said you would pay it back in installments. You were supposed to pay 3,000 yuan a month. Why did you stop after a few months? The group fell silent. I accused them without any hesitation. I made the whole family lose face. Before my in-laws got angry, I quickly spoke up. Benjamin only gives 2,000 yuan a month. Our small family is already struggling to make ends meet. How can we spare any money to lend to our relatives? No one's money comes from thin air. I don't want to pay out of my own pocket and have you gossiping behind my back. Even brothers have to settle their accounts. Don't pretend you don't know what you owe. If you can't pay now, write a note. Make it clear when you'll pay. I'm being firm. There's no room for discussion. George's chest heaved with anger. His fingers trembled as he pointed at me. Evelyn, you've gone too far. Emily, George's wife, quickly patted her husband on the chest. She helped him calm down. Even so, she couldn't help but give me a piece of her mind. How can you talk to your elders like that? Benjamin has always been careless. Who knows if he gave you any money apart from the 2,000 yuan he gives you every month? With your meager salary, where would you get the money to lend to others? Are you making this up? Is it because you've lost face that you're accusing me of making things up? Benjamin's Aunt Lily seemed to have found a supporter. She immediately raised her voice and said, you're right. It's not enough to just say it. You need to prove it with a receipt. Don't think we'll believe anything you say. You think we're easy to convince, don't you? It was only because we're related that we didn't make you write a receipt in the first place. I froze for a moment. I really didn't expect them to go this far. When they borrowed the money, they were all smiles. They said all kinds of nice things. Now they want to renege on the debt. They've suddenly turned into complete strangers. I turned to Benjamin and asked, on the day my second aunt was discharged from the hospital, did we drive to pick her up? He nodded. Then he said, Yes. That day, the nurses kept reminding us that because he had no health insurance, the hospital wouldn't let him go. Then my aunt asked us to pay the bill first. You nodded, so I went to pay. Isn't that right? I deliberately went into the details. I wanted everyone to understand. Unexpectedly, Grandma Emily gave me a stern look. Benjamin immediately lowered his head. He didn't dare look at me. He stammered, "It's been so long, I can't remember clearly." I almost couldn't hold back from saying something inappropriate. You didn't pay the bill, so you don't care, and you're still pretending to be nice in front of your relatives, saying that husband and wife should be united. I can see that he and his wife are far from united. Grandma Emily looked at me triumphantly. She said, "Right?" Benjamin said there's no such thing. So don't say anymore. Are you upset because Benjamin didn't spend money on you? I'll tell you, we family members are all related. We'll always be united. You can change your wife, but family is forever. Emily, my mother-in-law, forcefully made her position clear to me. Everyone else stood behind her with a smug look on their faces, including Benjamin's grandparents. This large family stood together. They looked particularly united. Seeing this, my sister-in-law Kathy immediately came over to mediate. She affectionately took my arm. "Evelyn, we are all family. Why are you being so petty? The money you gave out, think of it as accumulating some good fortune for yourself." I gently pushed her hand away. I sneered. "Those who owe money and don't pay are not afraid of retribution. What do I have to be afraid of? Don't think that just because you didn't write an IOU, you can renege on the debt. I have quite a bit of evidence in my hands." I posted several screenshots of chat logs in one go in the family group. Benjamin said, "Honey, thank you for being sensible today. I paid my second uncle's hospital bill in advance. I'll buy your favorite cake when I get home from work." Cousin Kathy said to Evelyn, "Evelyn, how's English class needs to pay the tuition again. You know I recently lost my job. Your brother-in-law's salary has been cut. We don't want our child to suffer. So can you lend me $20,000 first? I thank my aunt on how's behalf." Cousin David said, "Benjamin, I recently saw a car with a big discount. Now that there is a second child, the original sedan is not quite suitable. Can you give me $100,000 first? You two don't have much financial pressure right now." Benjamin said, "Wife, cousin is also having a hard time. Why don't you borrow some money from your parents first? He promised to pay $3,000 per month. He definitely won't default. In addition to this, I also have the transfer records. Even the payment record of the credit card payment to my second uncle at the hospital is there. I'd like to see." How can they still argue? The Johnson family listened to me. Their faces turned ugly. I said coldly, "I didn't make up these things, did I? If you borrow, you have to pay it back. Otherwise, this is not over." Benjamin's cousin-in-law Kathy looked at me with suspicious eyes, murmured, "Your salary is so little. Where did all this money come from? Could it be that I've heard that some married women will become someone else's third party in order to improve their lives? Since you can lend out so much money so easily, it means you still have quite a bit of savings. Why bother to come and collect the debt during the new year?" I raised my hand and slapped my sister-in-law Kathy. "Who are you talking about? You don't have any financial means yourself. You stay at home as a housewife, so you can just speculate about other people? No matter how much money I have, you can't just cheat it away. As a mother, you should be careful with your words. Set a good example for your children. Your family is not in a good financial situation, but you insisted on having a second child. You borrowed money from me to change your car. Now you don't want to pay me back and you're even insulting me. Aren't you afraid that I'll call the police?" David, my cousin, saw his daughter-in-law being beaten. He rushed over immediately and tried to fight back. I grabbed the fruit knife on the table. "We're both the same height and build. If you dare to fight, don't blame me for being rude. I'll be defending myself at most. If you're not afraid, go ahead and try." I kind of understand now. This family is determined to renege on their debts. Even though the evidence is right in front of them, they still refuse to admit it. Emily, the mother-in-law, said angrily, "Evelyn, it's the new year. Do you have to make the family so restless? We really misjudged Benjamin. How could he marry a woman like you? Having a loser like you is really a misfortune for the family. With your behavior, the Johnsons won't keep you. Oh dear, it's come to this, and you're still so stubborn. I don't know where you get your confidence. It's as if I'm the luckiest woman in the world to marry her son. I put down the knife. I said coldly, families like yours. I don't want to stay here anymore. I will sue you for not paying your debts after the new year. You figure it out. Cousin David, how's business going this year? Do you want me to help you promote it? You borrowed money to buy a car to impress people, but you can't even pay back 100,000 yuan. Aunt Linda always brags about how great her son-in-law is. She also said they bought a house in the first-tier city. Now she won't even pay for her father-in-law's hospital bill. Cousin Kathy is short of cash. She can't afford to send her kids to training courses. She can't pay me back either, but she has money to go to Hong Kong for fun. She even flaunts her designer bags online. Does your whole family think I'm an easy target? You're all taking advantage of me, aren't you? The internet is so advanced these days. I don't mind helping your family spread the word. Let everyone see how outrageous you are. The tiger doesn't show its teeth. You really take me for Hello Kitty. If you really have difficulties, I won't say anything more. They obviously borrow the money on purpose and refuse to pay it back, and they feel justified, treating me like someone who can be bullied. George, the father-in-law, put on the posture of the head of the family again. Frowning, he lectured me. Since when does a woman in the family get to speak and make decisions? Benjamin has spoiled you too much. That's why you've become so willful. So what if you transferred the money? It's all marital property. Benjamin also has half of it. He can spend it as he pleases. After saying this, the Johnsons looked like they had seen hope. They nodded frequently. They strongly agreed with George. Marital property. Benjamin can spend it as he pleases. Don't be so overbearing. Can you explain where this money came from? It can't be from an unknown source. You're in a lot of trouble yourself, and you're still yelling here. Go ahead and sue. We're not afraid. I smiled, picked up my phone and bag, and said, okay, since you put it that way, I'll go to court on the 8th day of the 8th month. By the way, I have something else to tell you. I borrowed the money from a friend. I wrote a promissory note. If I don't pay it back, it will become a joint debt of Benjamin and me after our marriage. Fortunately, I opened the store with my best friend. She transfers the profits to me after dividing the profits. I have bank records. I just need to write a loan note later. It's not difficult. Benjamin frowned. He sternly told me in front of everyone, Evelyn, how long are you going to make trouble? It's the new year. You're acting like a prima donna at home. Have you thought about how I feel? Feelings. They've done so many things that make you speechless. How dare they say such things? I looked at him coldly. You propose to go halves, but you always endlessly satisfy your family's need to borrow money. Have you considered my feelings? Married life. All he thinks about is himself and his family. I have truly given but received no respect or sincerity. Why should I subject myself to further humiliation? After leaving the Johnsons, I immediately returned to Benjamin's two-bedroom flat. I packed up all my things. I was ready to go back to my parents' house. While waiting at a red light on the way, I looked out the window and saw the beautiful fireworks. Tears fell without me noticing. It took 3 years to get to know someone. It was a good thing. On New Year's Eve, I dragged my luggage home. When my parents saw me, their eyes were full of worry. They helped me make the bed, cooked dumplings, and warmed up leftovers. But they didn't ask me anything. The next morning, Benjamin came. My parents didn't look happy to see him. He kept apologizing like a child who had done something wrong. Finally, he went into my room. I asked him directly, when are your relatives going to pay me back? If they don't, there's nothing more to talk about between us. Benjamin smiled. His attitude was very careful. He wanted to make me happy. My wife, as usual in previous years, we have to go to the secretary and the director to pay our respects today. It's getting late. Let's get going. So that's what it's about. I thought he really understood. Benjamin is on the permanent staff. He's usually quite tactful. His professional skills are not bad. He has a good reputation at work. After getting married, he also established the image of a good man who loves his wife. Their leader is a relatively traditional person. He values family, So when he sees Benjamin like this, the leader is quite satisfied. The leader's wife also has a good impression of me. Recently Benjamin was in a crucial period for promotion and pay rise. He especially hoped that I could cooperate with him in acting. When I went back to my parents' home, I planned to divorce him, to completely end this relationship. But then I thought, my efforts in these few years should not be wasted. Benjamin has been married for 3 years. He gives me very little money. He has saved quite a lot of secret money himself. We live quite comfortably. So, I pretended to make up with him. I accompanied him to pay New Year's visits to the leaders. After the New Year, I sued Johnson's relatives directly for the money they owed. I told Benjamin, tell your relatives, I'm not just saying this. If you don't want your job to be in trouble, tell them to pay up. I don't know what Benjamin told his family when he got home, but I received the money within 2 days. Benjamin got a promotion. His salary also increased, but he was not happy at all. I insisted on paying for everything. I even charged him for pouring him a glass of water. He also became more and more particular about cooking. He said it was for his health. He cooked balanced meals every day. After a year, Benjamin's income was being drained every month. He finally apologized to me. He said, honey, I know I was wrong. I'll give you 5,000 yuan every month for household expenses. Let's stop paying for everything separately. Is that okay? And I don't want to sleep in separate rooms anymore. I calmly took out the divorce agreement I had prepared long ago. It's better if we completely separate. The money I received from him this year we have already specified in the agreement. This is not considered marital property. These are all my personal earnings. Benjamin cannot ask for them back under any pretext. Blessed are the women. They will not marry into unblessed families. Those who are stingy with their wives and are on their guard at every turn. They are only suitable for remaining single. My money, I will spend it slowly on my own in the future. After the divorce, I traveled with my parents to most of China. I also lived in Dali for a few months. A wonderful life has just begun.